Good morning or afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. Welcome to DWF Live. My name is Riley Goldsmith, and I'm the Director of Programs and Operations at the Gord Downie and Chanie Wenjack Fund. As we gather today throughout Turtle Island, we remind you that we are situated on treaty and unceded Indigenous lands. This land is steeped in rich Indigenous history and home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. And as a country, we have a responsibility for the stewardship of the land of which we live and work. Inspired by Chanie's story and Gord's call to build a better Canada, the Gord Downie and Chanie Wenjack Fund aims to build cultural understanding to create a path toward reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. Our goal is to improve the lives of Indigenous people by building awareness, education, and connections between all peoples in Canada. We were created out of two families coming together to make change, uphold Chanie and Gord's legacies, and create a pathway on the journey toward reconciliation. We would like to thank our friends at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants for hosting these sessions for us, and we hope that you'll continue to learn more on your own path toward reconciliation. And now I'll pass it over to Joe, who will be your host for today's session.
All right, Riley, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for the introduction. I'll tuck you backstage for now. Hello, everyone. My name is Joe Greyeyes. I will be your host for today. A shout out to all the classrooms who are going to be joining us, whether you're in a camera spot today, or you are tuning in live via YouTube. Don't forget to introduce yourselves in the chat and, of course, send in your questions so we can work them in during today's event. I know it's an exciting day for many classrooms, Friday before March break for a lot of classrooms in Canada. So we're really excited to have your groups joining us today. And of course, as always, a special shout out to our legacy schools and classrooms joining us today. Great to have you with us. If you do not know about this program with the Gord Downie and Chanie Wenjack Fund, do take a few moments to visit the website, downiewenjack.ca, and you'll find a section for the Legacy Schools program. You can read all about it and find out what you have to do to become a legacy school or legacy classroom yourself and start taking part in reconciliation through reconciliation. All right. Well, we have a great event in store for us today. I'm really excited to have Phillip Lewitski joining us and Joshua Odjick. They are stars of the film WILDHOOD, which is being released theatrically today in Canada. So Phillip and Joshua are joining us to discuss their experiences as young Indigenous actors, as well as their time working on this landmark two-spirit coming-of-age film written and directed by Bretten Hannam. So I'm going to bring the two of them in right now so we can say hey. So here we go, Joshua and Phillip coming in. How are we doing today, guys?
Hello. Doing good.
Very good, very good. Thanks for having us.
Of course, it's great to have you joining us today. What I thought we could do is maybe start off and have each of you introduce yourselves. Tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe some of the other projects that you've worked on. And then from there, we can take a look at the trailer for WILDHOOD, talk a little bit about your experiences, and then we'll let the classrooms take over for a little bit. How's that sound?
Great.
All right. Well, let's just go luck of the draw. Phillip, why don't you start off?
My name is Phillip Lewitski. I'm Mohawk from the Métis Nation of Alberta. I was born in Calgary. Family of 10. I have 6 brothers, 2 sisters, so it was a pretty chaotic upbringing. And yeah, I'm just really excited to be here and to talk about some things with Josh and dig in and share my personal experiences in life, and hopefully some people can take some things away from it.
All right. Awesome, Phillip. And can you tell us maybe share a couple of experiences? I know you've been in a few other productions.
Yeah, I guess what really separates this project from other ones is I found that this, when you're working on a feature film versus TV, you're given a lot more time to dive into things and to really take your time and to get to know your castmates and the people that you're working with. And usually the director will give you more time on scenes because it's not so rushed. And so this was a very special project, very different from things that I've done before. And yeah.
Perfect. Josh, let's get the same from you. Why don't you introduce yourself and maybe tell us about a project or two you've worked on in the past?
Hi, my name is Joshua Odjick. I'm Anishinaabe from Kitigan Zibi. I lived in Ottawa for a little bit. I've been acting for 4 years, going on 4 years. And yeah, I've worked on a few other things other than WILDHOOD. And but right now I'm just waiting for them to come out. And yeah, WILDHOOD was one of the big milestones of my career. And I'm very proud of our work. I'm very proud of everyone who was part of the crew, the cast, the amazing cast, the amazing writing that Bretten made. It was very, very, very personal to him.
All right, excellent. And so, you mentioned that, sometimes you have to wait for things to come out. How long have you been waiting for WILDHOOD to be officially released?
Well, within a year.
About a year?
Well, we were both, I think, introduced to the project about 2.5 years ago.
Back in 2019.
Yeah. So it took a while. There were obvious delays with COVID and things like that, but somehow we made it work with quarantining and COVID advisors on set. And but yeah, it's been a long time coming, and an even longer time coming for Bretten, who has been working on this for over a decade now. So
yeah,
it's a privilege to come in even that late into the stage of things and to be accepted by them. And
all right, great. Well, why don't I've got the trailer queued up here, so why don't we play the trailer now, and then we can maybe dive into a little bit of behind the scenes in the making of the film. All right, here we go.
Does this look like the sky or the ocean? To me, they look the same.
And what if they don't fit anywhere?
That's how your mother felt. She felt like she didn't belong.
You said she was dead! She's dead the day she left his house, all right? Still wants you. Don't you dare! Let go!
What are we gonna say when we go back?
You into dirt bikes? What's your favorite ride?
Are you Micmac? Link's Micmac.
No, I'm not.
It's Mi'kmaq.
Yeah, we don't need your help.
What's all that? Regalia. For dancing. A good dancer can make a bit of cash.
You any good? She ran away. Why didn't you take me with her?
Lincoln, Kulakwarakwidro.
He likes you.
Whatever.
He wants to do
Oh,
your
You don't know how lucky you are that you got somewhere you're going.
How do you say mother?
Engage. Oquist, son.
Engage.
Oquist.
All right. Let's bring it back in here. Take that video out now. All right. Well, I think, first of all, you must both be excited for today. The release in Canada must be pretty exciting. Do you have any plans to watch the film in the near future? What are your plans today? Anything on the agenda?
I watched it countlessly already, over 100 times. So
yeah. So I think that's a question that came to my mind when I was watching the trailers. What does it feel like to see yourselves on screen? Is it kind of strange, a little surreal? What or is it just, you're so in the process that it just feels like this is the next logical step? What does it feel like when you see yourselves on screen?
would you like to go with that first, or would you like me to go first, Philip?
you go, Josh.
All right. Well, the first time I saw myself, I was across seas in Belgium, and I was watching, and it definitely surprised me because there was a lot of things that were cut, and it it took a while because like for me to like get into the film because like how it was edited. But then after I finished the film the first time, I um I had a different understanding of the film, and I was like, wow, I I don't see myself on the screen. That's a different character. Holy. And like it's so amazing that like what we put to life on screen and like all the work that's been done, and I hope that it did make a positive influence on people.
Yeah, over to you, Philip. What's it like when you see yourself on screen when a production wraps?
This one's a little different because I the first time I saw the film was at TIFF, and I flew my whole family in, and we were all in this. TIFF is a whole thing, and it was my first time going to TIFF, and so that in and of itself was a lot to take in. And then watching the film with my entire family was also a lot to take in, and I could barely utter a word during the Q&A. It was just it shook me up that much. I mean, even just watching the trailer, it's just the journey that we went through all together. You can't even really put words into it, and so it's difficult to watch it, to be honest.
Yeah. What I'd love to know, and I think the audience or the students tuning in would be curious to know as well, what led each of you to acting, to a career in acting? Do you want to start off with that one, Philip?
Yeah, I was homeschooled most of my life, and an extracurricular activity that my mother put me in. And it's kind of weird because she only put me in theater. None of my other siblings, they were all musicians, and music is a big part of my life. Drums, piano, violin, but for some reason I guess she saw an actor in me at a very young age, and if I didn't like it, like I would have walked away for sure, and I would have told her, but I loved it, and I got onto that stage. It was just this little homeschool production that we were doing for the parents, and I remember I forgot all of my lines, every single one, and it was the most embarrassing moment of my life, in the work, I guess. And I told myself, I promised myself in that moment that I would never let that happen again, and that I would work to become the best that I could possibly be at what I do. And then I just sort of transitioned into film and television from
All right. It's amazing how parents just know sometimes
there.
and just have that kind of idea, that inkling. What over to you, Joshua? What led you to acting?
Well, I grew up on the res, so we had a high school on the res, and we didn't have no drama class growing up. But funny enough, I failed art, and now I'm an artist at my career. What got me into acting was a cattle call from Outlander in North Bay back in 2018. I didn't get the role, but I thought it was fun. But I didn't think of anything other than acting after that. I was still in high school, and I was still in sports. I was in hockey at the time, and I guess fate decided that acting is for me. I was one fateful day, I was hanging off of a basketball net trying to impress some friends. No one was looking. I slipped. I broke my wrist. That was the end of my hockey career. Got into acting, realized I fell in love with acting. And my mother, same thing as Philip, like saw an actor in me. And yeah, she was one of my #1 supporters in my career, and I'm proud of that.
All right. So kind of one of those situations, I guess, where one door closes, but another one opens and you kind of find another passion. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to turn things over to the students shortly, but one more question that I want to ask here before we do would be just, you mentioned some challenges already. You mentioned filming during COVID was a challenge. I'm wondering what other challenges you encountered during the process of filming the movie.
Weather was a big factor.
Mhm.
Sometimes it would just be one of those days, like, we would not be happy, like, get hungry, whatever, just human nature. Sometimes that would be part of the day, but other than that, we just kept on being transparent with each other, and that's how we kept on rolling, and that's what made the work be as beautiful as it is, because like how open we were. So that's how I view that question.
Any challenges or roadblocks you hit, Philip?
Well, just to bounce off of what Josh was saying, I think that the material itself is a challenge beyond anything else you could have encountered. And to have a partner like Josh, who is so vulnerable and willing to show himself to me fully, made it possible. Because if you had someone working across from you who was closed off or didn't want to go to certain depths, then you both sort of have to be willing to fall into the deep end. And so I'm so grateful to have Josh and everybody else that we worked with. It was just phenomenal. And it was, we got through it somehow.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It looks like there's, definitely some intimacy in the film. So it definitely is important to be able to trust and respect the person that you're working with, the person on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to start turning things over to our classrooms. I'll start bringing groups in. We'll start grabbing some questions. I'm going to start with one that came in here via YouTube. So Miss Lang is tuning in. And first of all, saying congrats on the film. Looking forward to it coming to Saskatchewan. And then the question is, did Michael Greyeyes drop any wisdom or advice on you? What was it like to work with him?
We can't tell you anything that Michael said.
Nothing.
No, Josh, that secret that he told you, are you able to share that or no?
No. I'm just kidding. I remember after everything was done and we did like a film festival in LA, he said some very inspiring words to me, and it's kind of vulnerable of me to say, so I'm not comfortable saying it, but I just know that his words touched me that day, and I think that was pretty cool because I idolized Michael Greyeyes growing up, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that's awesome to have that experience where you get to meet someone who you respected so much growing up, and to have that advice, something special as you are kind of starting and moving through your career. That sounds really awesome. And then on set, were you intimidated? Were you nervous, or was it, did he make you feel at ease?
I remember the first week when I saw Michael on the Zoom call, like I just saw him and I was like, shit. Turn off the camera, turn off the mic, and I was like freaking out like a nerd. Then composed myself quickly, unmuted myself, turned the camera on. I'm like, hey, how's it going? My name is Joshua Odjick. So it was kind of scary at sometimes, but no, he made us feel comfortable. He was very loving individual. He dropped some wisdom on us youngins, and yeah, I would definitely love to work with Michael again.
Yeah, I mean, someone like that, a vet who's sort of experienced a lot of what this industry is about. So much wisdom, and I mean, one thing that comes to mind is we were at this after party together, and he came up to me and he said, protect your circle, protect the people that are close to you, but most importantly, protect yourself. And that really stuck with me, because this is a very beautiful industry, but there are a lot of dark aspects to it that if you're naive going into it, you can fall into some traps. And so I think that was just really nice to hear that from him. And he's just such a cool guy. And like Smokey, the character that he plays, is so cool and like smooth and just going with the flow. And so it was so easy to work with him. He just made it really easy.
Awesome. Good stuff. Well, let's bring in one of our groups here. Let's get started. We have some fifth graders in Ottawa who are joining us today. It's a group of about 70 students joining us virtually with Miss Kirk. So I'm going to bring her in and see if a question or two has come in for us. So here we go. Hey, Miss Kirk, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good.
I don't have a ton of students having questions. I do have one. I just put the comment in there. I have a student in my class. We are a virtual class, and Zoe just wanted me to make sure that they wanted to say thank you. They identify as a queer and Indigenous student, and immediately just watching this was immediately like, I must see this. This is like very much feeling representation. So I guess my question to you is, why do you guys feel that this movie, this film, it was so important? Why is it so important right now? And especially as Canadians, as things are being literally uncovered layer by layer here, why is this the right time for this film to come out?
Well, thank you, Zoe. You're the reason that I do what I do. I'm sure it's the same for Josh. The most important thing is that we're affecting people in ways and making them feel a little less lonely in this lonely world, and that you can get through it, and obviously you have, and it's very important for young audiences to see this too, because it's at that age range in your teenage, young adolescence years that you can feel very alone in yourself, because you have all these questions, and if you don't have a good support system around you, you don't have a lot of answers, and so you just feel trapped inside your own head. And that's how Link is. And through Buzzmai's help and through everyone he meets in this story, he's able to come to terms with who he is and how he feels, and you can just see a shift of rejuvenation at the end through dance, and that's a really beautiful thing to see, and that nothing is permanent, everything is changing. So if you're at a bad place right now, I promise you won't always be there. Change is constant.
Yeah, for me, it was growing up. I always felt like not represented on film, and I always saw myself as playing Spider-Man. I'm not Peter Parker. I didn't grow up in New York City, so I always felt like maybe something like this film could shine some light on the not represented, give some recognition onto the non-represented people, two-spirit people, especially Indigenous people who are growing up and they feel like everything is not clear to them, and maybe this can give them some sort of influence on what they can do. They could follow their dreams and not be ashamed of who they are.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that must be exciting too, with it being released theatrically today, knowing that, many students, many young people are going to see this film, and it is going to speak to them, and it is going to impact them in many different ways. That must be really cool. And great to know that impact's being had. So I'm going to grab another one of our groups. I'm going to go now to Miss Gaboy's crew. They are joining us in Cornwall, Ontario, and it looks like they might have the camera up and going. So I'm going to check in with them and see if we can visit them live. There we go.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
We gotcha.
Perfect. We're actually tuning in from the Mohawk Nation of Akwesasne. So wanted to also say thank you for telling these important stories and the representation. And I have a question here from Keelan.
How old are you? And I forgot that question. How long have you been acting?
Would you like to go first, Philip?
I think 24. I can't remember. And I guess I've been acting since I was in grade 7. So one more year older than you.
Sego, thank you for the question. Nyawan. I'm 20 years old, and I've been acting for almost 4 years now. I started when I was 16.
Awesome, Keelan. Thanks for that great question. And Ms.
Yeah.
Gabois, if you have another question come up, just shoot me a message in the chat and I'll come back and visit your crew. All right, I'm going to grab another question here from viewers on YouTube. So let's see. Oh, you just answered Brooklyn's question. Brooklyn was asking how old you are as well. Paige and Miss Wilson's class would like to know, where was the movie filmed? Where was WILDHOOD filmed?
Mi'kmaq Territory, Nova Scotia.
All right, very cool. And how long? A few are asking how long it took to film. So how much time did you spend in Nova Scotia?
Would you like to go first?
I think it was like 2 months with quarantine.
It's about that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would have been tough too, right? There was kind of that bubble around the Atlantic provinces with COVID, so it would have been even kind of a little more difficult even to get there to do the filming.
Yeah, definitely. They were. I think they were one of the strongest cities in Canada. So it was difficult to get us in as outsiders.
Yeah.
But once you're in, it was very isolated, and you didn't even have one COVID outbreak, which is pretty good.
Phillip flew into Nova Scotia, and I drove in from Ottawa, so that was a long drive.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely.
Getting stopped by the border was crazy.
Yeah, I'm going to bring in some high school students now who are hanging out virtually with Miss Fike. I'm going to bring them in now. Awesome arts class. How are we doing today?
Hi, we're doing really well. I know you're stuck with just seeing me, but trust me, they're all virtually here and on pins and needles, really enjoying this. So thanks, everybody. Caitlin and some of my other students in our blended arts class are just wanting to know more about the audition and casting process for the film, if you're open to sharing that.
Yeah, thank you. Josh?
Okay. Yeah, I remember it was back in 2019. I auditioned for WILDHOOD. I was couch surfing at the moment. I was couch surfing, working on my part-time job and acting at the same time. I read the script, fell in love with it. I did some self-tapes, and yeah, I sent those in, and then I heard that I got a in-person callback with my it's like a chemistry test with Phillip here, and we met in Toronto. So that was another whole big step for me, going to the casting director's location and seeing someone who I'm potentially be working with. So that was definitely scary until I met Phillip. Then I realized that he was also scared, which also eased my nerves. So yeah, then I got cast a year later after everything went down, COVID, and they asked for more notes. I was surprised that things were still going with the production. I was like, sure, I'll definitely give my work on this self-tape again. And yeah, then I got cast. I got news I got cast. I drove to Nova Scotia, stayed there, and yeah.
Awesome.
I first received the script when I was actually on a road trip with my mother, and we read the whole thing cover to cover, and we were both just in awe by the end. And I knew that, I needed to get on my agents to get me up for this, and because it was just such an incredible story, and I felt so connected to it. And then I was in New York, and I got a call that they were interested in seeing me, and then next thing I knew, I was in Toronto, reading across from Josh. Like Josh was saying, it's called a chemistry read, which is essentially they want to see how you work off of each other. And yeah, I was supposed to meet with a couple other actors, but something happened where I don't know. I just told Brett that I love Josh so much, and I think we would do a really good job together. And then it was about a year before they actually confirmed Josh. And so I kept asking Brett, because we were doing Skype calls and Zoom calls to talk about things, the process, and I kept asking him. I was like, "Hey, so have you decided who's playing Buzzamai? Is it Josh?" And I was really hoping it was Josh. And then when it was Josh, I was very excited and happy. And yeah, I think it worked out.
All right. So I can't resist this question because it's come up multiple times in the chat. I guess in the trailer, there was that scene where the car or the truck was on fire. So a lot of students want to know, was a vehicle really set on fire? And then I think that could lead to, was there anything on set, you know, any stunts or any things like that that you saw that were kind of really interesting?
All the cool stunts were cut.
Yeah, there's a lot of stunts that were cut.
So we had this one stunt where we were in this house and they had this floor that was going to collapse. And then this dust cannon that was going to shoot dust up and we were going to fall onto these mats. I can't remember exactly the details of it. That was cut. I actually did 2 weeks of dirt bike training and rehearsals for these dirt bike scenes where I was actually, the dirt bike was on a movie truck trailer harness and I was strapped in. So I'm not actually riding it. It's just the cameras are stationary on the back of the truck.
Spoiling.
I'm not spoiling something that was cut out of the movie. Yeah, I'm spoiling the director's. So anyway, that was cut. And then what was the other one? I thought there was one more. There was a whole party scene that was cut. Like we shot in the middle of the forest. It was actually an epic party, and that was cut too.
Yeah, I guess that really speaks to what you guys had mentioned earlier, that you film, you have an idea of what you think the film is going to be, but then you see those final edits and you see, you know, kind of a really different vision than maybe you thought was coming together at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
All right. Well, we have another group here. We have Miss Wu's group joining us. They are a Native contemporary studies class joining us. So Ms. Wu, if you're there, if you want to unmute your mic, I know you put a question in the chat, but you can go ahead and ask it live if you want. Okay, maybe they can't get unmuted, so I'll go ahead and I'll ask the question here because it's up in the chat. So, oh, never mind. There they are. Let me bring them back in.
Hey guys.
Hey, Ms. Wu, how are you?
Hi, good, thanks. So we're from Thornhill, Ontario. And we often have misconceptions about what it's like to live on a reserve. We heard that Josh grew up on a reserve. So what are misconceptions you would want to dispel to students who live in the city? And what do you still live on the reservation, or are you based in Toronto now? Thanks for speaking to us today.
Well, I grew up on the reserve. And where I'm from, my reserve is called Kitigan-Zibi, which is north of Ottawa. And yeah, it's completely different to living in the city. I definitely had some trouble getting used to the new environment, the city environment when I moved to Ottawa. There was definitely homesickness, feeling missing family, trying to get used to this cultural shock. Then I moved to Toronto for a year. Then COVID hit, and I had to move out. And yeah, just having all these experiences paved the way to be who I am today. And it is different to be living on the res. No, to answer that question, I don't live on the res anymore, but my parents still do, so I visit them every now and then. And I'd say the differences for when I was living on res and living on the city, I was more broke, if I should say. It was difficult to get around traveling. I had no driver's license, so there's that. That's the best I can answer that question, if that answers your question.
It does, thank you.
Awesome. All right, thanks, Thornhill. Let's see. I'm going to slide back to the chat here and see. Okay, I'm going to bring in our Ottawa group one more time because they have another question here. So I'm going to let them go ahead with their question.
Perfect, thank you. We have a couple different questions, but one of them was, how do you get into character when you are preparing for a role? Particularly, I guess, focusing on this particular film.
Would you like to share your process first, Philip? It's not been speaking a lot.
I guess for me, every character is different because they're asking something different of you, and I guess it's just about getting to know the people that you're working with. That's very helpful. And working with Josh, we did rehearsals in quarantine for 2 weeks over these Zoom calls, and I found that just working with Josh, getting to know Josh, and Avery, who plays Travis, and Michael and Joel, really helped me to understand the world of where Link grew up, and the trailer park and all these little things. And then just asking yourself questions. And I also have this little journal that I write down the character's thoughts in. And I guess every morning I do that before I go to set. And then it just sort of helps me get into the mind of what do they think? What's their favorite color? What's their favorite animal? What do they think of their mother? What do they think of their father? Do they have siblings? Do they not? What do they like to do on their free time? You just got to ask all those questions that you know the answers to for yourself, but you go for the character. And then once you answer all those questions, it just helps you to really understand who and what they are.
When I prepared for this role, I was preparing like a year beforehand in acting class. I was working on different characters that had the same characteristics of Pasmay. And yeah, I've just been using that throughout the whole year and even before the auditioning process. And what helps me to get into character is learning the lines right away. Like that's just like the little easiest thing. You may think that's the most intimidating thing, but it's one of the most simplest things to learn is your lines. What the most difficult process for me is to be vulnerable with someone else in front of you. As like you said, you have to get used to someone. Like that's what Philip said. You got to get used to your partner. Essentially, you got to be transparent with them. And yeah, all my due diligence is the preparation and the work and the acting classes I attended to make the film.
All right. And then, you both mentioned finding that character, being with that character for an extended period of time. Is it hard to leave that character when the movie ends, when the filming ends?
Oh yeah, there is a sort of like a depression after you wrap a film, a project. You're obviously going to be feeling sad. And but what helps you though is just have this saying that my mentor always said: it's this and something better.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's bring in Miss Gadboy's crew. They put in that they want to ask another question here. Let's bring our sixes in.
Do you have any advice for like kids who want on the res that want to get into acting?
I do have a lot of advice. I'm just wondering if I should say it so bluntly.
Say it.
For me, what helped me to get into acting was that realizing who's in my circle, who's there for me, like for my supports my interests, and not just to be a crab in the bucket, if you know what I mean. I definitely made sacrifices and cut off some friends who were not really my friends. And a lot of it is just battling my own ego, basically, and discovering myself, and just keep rolling. That's what my advice is. And don't beat yourself up. You won't be good at everything you start. That's what I learned.
Philip, anything to add to that?
I think that just follow your heart, and whatever that feeling inside that's telling you to do something or get out of a situation or bring people into your circle, or that's always been my guiding life signal of any decision I make, really. I always check in with myself. Is this in my highest? Is this the best for me? And you'll always know. You just have to take a moment of silence to listen to yourself. You'll know what you have to do.
Yeah. And I think, I think there's probably times where people tell you maybe it's unrealistic or, it's not worth trying in the first place. But I think it's so much more valuable to put yourself out there and take that risk, because you'll always wonder what if afterwards, right? If you don't go for something, if you don't follow your passion. And man, if you can turn your passion into your career, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to put out a final call. If there are any more questions out there, you can pop something into the chat for me before we wrap up for today. But Phillip and Joshua, it's been such a pleasure to have both of you joining us today on what must be a pretty exciting day, to know that the film is going to kind of go out there widely. It sounds like it's hit a few film festivals, so you had some great experiences traveling around a little bit and seeing the film up on the screen. And now I guess it's gonna be a different feeling, knowing that so many people can now see the film, see the character you've developed, and it's going to start having an impact on people.
Yeah, a little nervous.
Awesome. I imagine, did you get any advice about reviews? Like, don't read them, or yeah.
I don't go out of my way to read them.
Yeah.
Only if they're put in front of me, then I'm curious. But
yeah.
Yeah.
Do they still
Everybody
take acting classes?
Huh?
Yes, they still take acting classes.
Always.
Yeah.
Even if I make a film, I never made it. That's always goes through my head. There's always room for improvement.
Yeah, always. That's the thing with acting, is there's no finish line. There's no degree that you can now say I've completed my mission as an actor. There's always deeper. There's always more you can do. So
yeah, so that's very similar to a question the Awesome Arts class is asking right now. I can bring Miss Fike in here really quickly.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, a couple of questions they asked, and I know we're short on time, so whatever feels right. If you still take acting classes, and if that's something that's constant or every now and then if you have time, how many films you both have made? Thanks.
Would you like to go first?
No.
Well, as I'll reinstate, yeah, I still go take acting classes. I feel like I remember my first mistake after booking something. I felt like I was king shit. Well, sorry. What happened was my ego inflated too big, and I realized that my acting wasn't up to par as it was before. So what I realized is that I didn't make it. I got to keep going to acting classes, and I hope that answers that question. And how many films I have made? I've only made. Well, WILDHOOD is one of my first leading roles in a film, so I've made one leading role film and one film that I was kind of like a side character. But I've made a few other things though.
Yeah, and so I imagine you echo that, Phillip. It's a learning process, right? You're not. Yeah. There's never a time where you say, "I'm the top actor. I'm done." There's so much more to do and to learn.
But that's what's so fascinating about this craft is that there's limitless possibilities to where you can go with yourself and with other people, and so you never get bored because there's always something that you can do to improve yourself
and learn a lot about yourself probably too in the process.
Absolutely, it's very therapeutic.
Yeah. It's
also very definitely challenging too. Like if you see something in yourself that you don't like, you'll battle against it. Like there's going to be highs and lows in acting class, but once you get through them, you push through them, you feel so satisfied, like you've done something.
Yeah.
It's artistically satisfying is what I'm trying to say.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to share a quick link here before I wrap up today. If you do want to find a little more information. Oops, I missed an O there. Let me fix that link. And then we'll put it back in there. There we go. Let me try this link now. There we go. So do check out the link and check out the movie, which is being released today. Philip and Joshua, thank you so much for spending some time with us today, spending some time with the students, sharing your experiences, your vulnerabilities, and you know, those doubts that creep in sometimes. But yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to host both of you today. And I know there's a lot of students, a lot of young people who are really going to benefit from having a chance to see this film now that it's going to be more widely released.
Thank you so much for having me and Josh, and I hope our words have helped you in some way.
Thank you.
All right. Well, YouTube classrooms, camera classrooms, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Have a great weekend, everyone. Those starting March break, enjoy your break. And we hope to see you on the next DWF Live. Thanks, everyone.
Hi.